In this Python tutorial, we will learn about casting data types or converting from one data type to another data type. Let's take a variable. Notice here that the number 34 is enclosed in quotes. Therefore, it is a string data type and not an integer, which we can verify when we run this program. However, if we want to convert this to an integer value, we can make use of the int function to do so. Now we see that the data type of the variable num2 is integer. This is called typecasting, where we can convert value of one data type to a value of another data type. So here we did typecasting from the string value to an integer value. We can in fact typecast to any other data type as well. So if we do num3 running this, we see that the string value is now converted to a float value because of the float function here. This ability to convert different data types is useful because it allows us to get the output data in our desired data type. Now, let's convert this float value to a string value using the str function. So, so we see here that the num3 float data type with value of 34.0 gives us the string data type of the same value. We can also typecast to a complex type like this. So if we have so this is how we can convert from an integer data type to a complex data type. And it gets converted to a complex type. We can also convert to boolean values using the bool function like this. Since we know that a boolean can have only two values, either true or false. We see here that the value 45 of the variable num4, which is of integer type, gets converted to value true here. Similarly, if we do we see that the output boolean value we get is false here. This is because when we convert from any value to a boolean value using the bool function, we find that any empty string, false, none, the integer 0, or the float number 0.0 will always be converted to false, whereas any non-empty string, true, or any non-zero number will always be converted to true. While doing typecasting, we have to understand a few things. For example, here we assign a float value to the variable value 1. So, value 1 is equal to 56 point. Value 1 is equal to int value. Here we are converting the float value to int and storing it in the same variable value 1. Run this, and in this type conversion from float to int, we see that when we typecast from a float value to an integer value, the part after the decimal gets truncated and only the part before the decimal points gets stored in the integer value, which is 56 in this case. Let's take another example. Again running this, we see that it is indeed truncation of float value to the integer value which is taking place, and no rounding off is happening, as the output value is the integer 56 only. We also need to know that not all values of one data type can be converted to another data type. For example, if we have value 3 is equal to 56, which is a string value, so value 3 is equal to int 3. Run this. Here we have converted from a numeric string value to an integer value. This is perfectly valid and is allowed as long as the string value is of numeric type, which has an integer equivalent value. As is the case here, we had an equivalent 56 integer value of the numeric string 56. But if we take another example, say value 4 is equal to then 56. When we run this, we notice that this is not allowed and gives an error if we directly convert this to an integer value. Since here the numeric string 56.23 did have an equivalent float value but did not have an equivalent integer value, that is why this conversion is not valid and gives an error. However, if we actually want to perform this operation, we need to do it like this. So when we run it, the string value gets converted to an equivalent float value, but what we want is an integer value. So we will do which converts the float value we got to the desired integer value. Another way we could have done the same is like this. Running it. This method seems shorter, especially if we are not interested in the intermediate value of the float data type. Also, another case here is if we have a value like this, when we run this, we get an error because as mentioned earlier, not all settings have all strings have an equivalent integer value. As we see that the string hello cannot be converted to an integer or float here. These typecasting functions are also useful when we need to get input from the user. As we know that an input function always store values as a string data type, so we can use these functions to convert directly to non-string data types. Is equal to input enter a number. Since here by default the data type will be of string, we can use the float function to convert it to a desired value. So, 5, and we got string. So what we can do is So running this, again if we enter 5, and we see it gets converted to 5.0 or the float data. There is also a shorter way to do in one go when we do not need the intermediate string value in the program. So we can do my num3 is equal to float input and running this, we see that the input value gets directly converted to our float value. So let's say 5 again. And it is 5. Now this can also be done directly if we want to get an integer value like this. And enter an integer number, let's say 7, and wait. Now this is of type integer. Notice here that the input function is enclosed as an argument inside the int function, so that first the input is received as a string value, and then because of the int function it gets converted to the desired integer value. That's all for this tutorial video. Thanks for watching this. If something is not clear to you, you can watch this video again. After that, if you still have some confusion or query, leave a comment below with your question. If you like this video, please let us know in the comment section below. Thank you.